Hey guys, and thank you for finding your way to Morgellons Discussion, the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Murphy, and this show is about Morgellons facts. That is to say, what has been able to be demonstrated for scientific purposes. So, if you hear me saying something about Morgellons disease on this show, it's got to be coming from the scientific world. It has been published in a prestigious journal, and the science, the experiments that went into producing that data are repeatable. So if you're looking for factual information about the Morgellons disease condition, welcome to our show. Hi, and thank you for tuning in to Morgellons Discussion, the podcast on Anchor FM. I'm your host, Jeremy Murphy, and today I wanted to talk about stigma. There has been, for as long as I can remember it, a large push towards ending mental health stigma. And I'll be honest, I think that's a great thing. At the same time, I wonder how it's differentiated between what is stigma and what is just trying to protect yourself from the behavior of somebody who's experiencing mental illness. Because say, for example, somebody comes into your store and they're wanting a job, right? And as soon as they walk in, they start slamming their head on the counter. Then they start talking about how everybody's a piece of shit except for them. And then they start screaming at you that you need to give them a job. And if you don't, you're discriminating. I really don't think that's a case of discrimination based on mental health stigma. I think this poor individual is experiencing some severe mental behavior issues and needs some serious help. At the same time, however, I have experienced stigma when the majority of my psychiatric issues cleared away after antibiotic intervention. I tried the antidepressants, I tried the antipsychotics, and inevitably they did make things much worse for me. Tried them several times, not just once. So when I tell people that it wasn't the antidepressants and antipsychotics that really helped me get a handle on my life and to be able to control my behavior, but that it was the antibiotics and the antiparasitics that accomplished that, that's when I start to experience stigma. Or at least I can report a misunderstanding that people have a disconnect of knowing that mental health issues do result from infectious diseases. In regards to Morgellons and chronic Lyme disease, there's a misunderstanding of what chronic Lyme disease is. Now, there's a misunderstanding of what Lyme disease is. There's a misunderstanding that Lyme disease is chronic Lyme disease. Basically, what they're talking about is treatment failure or untreated for several years, progressive into a late stage scenario. They show this microscopic video of this worm-looking thing, except it's more like a wine bottle opener. The corkscrew. That's the Lyme disease. Bit by ticks as kids, and they start experiencing severe neurological issues, and instead of considering that it could be an infectious process, doctors will treat it with psychotropic medications. And so I think that the stigma or misunderstanding that I experience about the behavioral results of the Lyme bacteria is because of the establishment that we have in regards to our medical organizations and agencies. The allopathic route of medicine does not look for the cause, but instead tries to treat the symptoms. But the thing is we do know that these same issues do come from infections. But the problem there is that doctors are not looking for them. A lot of doctors, and they'll test me and say, yeah, we'll test you for everything. They are not testing me for everything. If I'm only getting a $100 test, they're testing my kidneys and livers and maybe checking to see if I've got HIV virus. But they're not checking me for herpes, gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia. Did you know you can get fungal infections sexually? It's true. But the point is that the doctor's not looking for any of that crazy stuff. Why? Why are they not looking for that crazy stuff? Is it because the tests are so expensive? Not everybody has a lot of money to be putting out on a lot of tests, but there are a lot of people that have a lot of diseases. In fact, there's a lot more diseases and people with them than there are tests for them. You consider we just figured out how to do cryogenic microscopy. And there's a new one the other day I seen on Twitter too. People were talking about some kind of ultraviolet microscopy. But the farther down we're able to drill with these lenses, I think the more surprises we're going to find as we get down there. I think these germs, like Lyme disease, they got freaking diseases too. They got germs of their own. And you know what? I bet those freaking germs got their own germs as well. But getting back to what we do know about, they're not being tested for routinely on people. I think it would dramatically drive the cost down to test everybody for this junk up front. And I think that would result in a lot less debilitations and chronic illnesses and behavioral issues. Read a great article I totally related with. It was about this lady talking. She didn't realize how much Lyme disease had to do with mental health until 80% of her psychiatric concerns disappeared after antibiotic treatment. Chris Christopherson, a famous musician, he had dementia, they thought. Alzheimer's disease. Gave him a test for Lyme disease, tested positive, so they gave him the antibiotics, and his memory came back. So that's what chronic Lyme disease is people who have gone their whole lives with harboring the bacteria, but it never being elicited because it's not being looked for. Not every disease. MRSA is one of the more common ones that they have a quick culture method for. But from what I understand, to culture Lyme disease takes about 3 or 4 days. And there's treatment failure, of course, because of the biofilm colonies that these Lyme bacteria create, establish when they're inside the host. You know, you give somebody a few shots of penicillin and you send them home, and those colonies are like, God, I hope this is over with, this meteor shower of antibiotics. When it's done, all our children are going to run free and live off of this poor person's blood, nutrients, tissues, and other junk and stuff. And so that's why it's called chronic, because they couldn't understand, well, why is it just coming back? And then they figured out, oh yeah, it's because they establish little houses inside the bodies. And that's called biofilm, and I'm not making that up. But that's where I start to experience stigmas, when I start explaining this stuff to people. I think there ought to be a lot more awareness about that stuff. There's a lot of stuff about HIV, a lot about MRSA, and that's where I experience stigma too, because people don't understand that it's not just chronic Lyme disease where people take long-term antibiotics. People also take long-term antibiotics when they have rosacea, when they have cystic fibrosis. People don't understand that. They just know that antibiotics over long-term creates monster antibiotic-resistant bacteria. It doesn't actually happen that way right away. It's kind of a cumulative effect where it happens over a long time within populations of people. And we do survey to understand if that's what's going on. Okay, so yeah, I got the Lyme bacteria in my body. Yes, I am taken a lot of antibiotics for a long time. It has absolutely made an improvement in my life, but I don't take them like every single day. I have to take breaks for weeks. My doctor tests my kidney, liver functions, endocrine, and my doctor's also paying attention to what the science says about these particular chemicals that I'm putting in my body and what else I can take along with them to make them more effective. Because ultimately, neither one of us want me on antibiotics for the rest of my life. What's unfortunate, however, is that when you get to a point in late-stage Lyme disease, it becomes harder to treat. And so then you're looking at the possibility of, okay, I don't want to take these things for the rest of my life, but I don't want to die. And really, I mean, that's where I'm at. I don't want to die. I've got this bacteria in my body, not because I say so, because my doctor knew which test to give me so that it could demonstrate that, yes, I have this very dangerous bacteria. It's inside my body. It's not anybody's fault but my own, because I got bit by ticks and I didn't know. I was ignorant. I didn't go to the right doctors. I kept going to the allopathic medicine practitioners instead of going to the Lyme literate medical doctors. That's my fault for being ignorant. That's why I'm sick. That's why I have these sores on my body. But I want to see a different kind of medical procedure established. I want to see people being tested based on suspicion. Are you a little kid that came in off the back of your grandparents' pasture and you've been bitten by ticks several times? Yeah, that's me. Okay, we need to watch this guy and give him some antibiotics just to be safe. There are new studies coming out by industry pioneers that are recommending antibiotics for prophylaxis against several diseases, and that's been the case for several decades now. Guess what? Lyme disease is already antibiotic resistant. It's not necessarily because of these colonies either. The bacteria itself mechanically go in some places that the antibiotics might not necessarily reach, like intracellularly. Now people say, well, why don't you just take an intracellular antibiotic? And I do. But there's a lot of me and a lot of that bacteria inside of me that has potentially gone everywhere because it wasn't treated with these aggressive antibiotic protocols early on, where it would have been easier to cure. Wow, you see all that crap that we just went through, and people were looking at me going, this guy is obsessed with Lyme disease. Seriously. When I learned about Lyme disease and I tried to get it taken care of here with local doctors still, they put me on the phone with the infectious disease doctor, and that guy was emphatically telling me, you do not have Lyme disease. That is not Lyme disease. Lyme disease can be cured in 2 weeks with antibiotics. But I didn't get any better. In fact, I got a lot worse. I was having heart problems, neck pain, injury problem. And so then eventually I found my doctor and flew up there, and now I feel a lot better, a lot less scared. Still kind of frightened about the potential that the tools that my doctor has to work with are old, and there really should have been a lot more research towards how to replace them with more efficient tools that most effectively eradicate the bacteria in the body. But, do with what we got, right? So then you get to Morgellons, and it's like, oh yeah, I've got these sores, but inside the sores, I've got these microscopic fibers. And then they're like, okay, yeah, this guy's batshit crazy. He needs to see a psychiatrist and get on some antidepressants and antipsychotics. Holy crap, what happened to this person? He used to be such a smart guy. And I'm just standing there going, man, one of these days I'm going to retire in Arizona, right in the desert, going to have a cactus in the front yard. But anyways, in the meantime, it's a fucking horror show. And that gives me an opportunity to introduce you to this great musical artist I just discovered the other day, Zoe, the White Lioness. This is her song Stitches. If you like it, you can buy it in the link in the description below and her Bandcamp site. Check it out. Tell me what you guys think.
I've got these stitches in my skin. I've got these threads under my skin. It never heals, it coils and burns. People get theirs out. When's it my turn? I'm injured. I've been for a long time. I look down so you can't see the pain in my eyes. Don't stitches work? I thought they would help, but things are worse. I still hate myself. I still look in the mirror and I wanna break it. Give me an Oscar, my acting's amazing. I can tell you I'm fine. My smile is loud. Deep down inside I wanna blow my brains out. I've got these stitches in my skin. I've got these threads under my skin. It never heals, it coils and burns. People get theirs out. When's it my turn? You know I thought women would help. A pretty girl to help me forget myself. Because the fact is, I think I'm worthless. And I use women for validation. It's a lie I tell myself every day. God, give me a woman and I'll be okay. Turn me into a man, I'll be okay. God, why don't you just kill me and I'll be okay? I've got these stitches in my skin. I've got these threads under my skin. It never heals, it coils and burns. People get theirs out. When's it my turn? I've got these stitches in my skin. I've got these threads under my skin. It never heals, it coils and burns. People get theirs out. When's it my turn? Man, who am I kidding? I don't have stitches. I've got Morgellons. It's a painful disease nobody knows about. So what am I supposed to do now? The question isn't how I got it though. It's how do I lose it? And I haven't done a thing. I haven't cared to stop it. I'll just follow girls on Instagram, yeah, that'll solve it. Am I fixed now?